Okay, so we know N-Gage grips attach to a barbell at an angle, but how exactly do they attach? Well, it's pretty simple, really. N-Gage grips are made out of rubber, just like this, so you can open them up and they'll snap back in place. So all you do is open them up, place them on the bar, and they snap in place. That's it. Okay, and this is the part that confuses a lot of people, I think. But each set comes with two parts, two grips that are mirror images of one another. They're not identical to each other. So you can see that the grip opening is facing opposite direction on each one of these. And you can also see each grip is marked with a X or an O. And you might think, why mark them with an X and an O? Why not mark them with an L and an R for left and right? It's because they're not always going to be left or right. Depending on the lift you're performing, whether you're pushing or pulling, and whether you have an underhand grip, an overhand grip, they could go on either side. So the X could go on the right and the O could go on the left or vice versa. Don't worry, I know that sounds confusing, but once we walk through everything here, you're going to get it and it's going to be automatic. So when you get your set of N-Gage grips, make sure that you take a look at the instructions that come with each set. These are awesome. Definitely keep them handy and refer to them if you ever get confused or just need a refresher. As you look through the instructions, you're going to see that there's 3 simple, easy steps to using N-Gage grips. And I'm just going to outline those really quick right now. And then we're going to dive into some different exercises, different lifts that you can apply these instructions to and use your N-Gage grips on. Step number 1 is just to line the grips up so that your hands or your wrists are in a more neutral position. So let's talk about this for a little bit. There's really 2 ways to use N-Gage grips when you're lifting with a barbell. You can set them up so that your hands are more neutral, which means that your palms would be slightly facing each other. So for an overhand lift, it's gonna look like that, right? Hands are a little more neutral, palms slightly facing each other. I like to say that my thumbs are going up toward my face. Or if you're using an underhand grip, your palms facing one another is going to look like this. Again, your thumbs are going up towards your face, palms facing each other. So that is a more neutral hand position. That more neutral hand position is going to allow your tension in your elbow to go away, which if you're pressing, helps a ton with creating more space and room in a more biomechanically ideal position for your shoulder joints. So it can take pressure off your wrist, which takes pressure off your elbow, which put your shoulder in a better biomechanical position to press weight. That's one way to use them. That's kind of the obvious, more mainstream, if you will, way to use them. But like me, a lot of our customers also have some wrist issues that are actually solved by setting your wrist up in a more neutral position rather than setting your hands more neutral. So you might think, well, what's that mean? Isn't that the same thing? It sounds like the same thing. But when you think about it, hands more neutral is this, right? Wrist more neutral is this. So a neutral wrist looks like that. And one thing I like to tell people is if you lift your hands straight up like this, and so you have a 90-degree bend in your arm, and you close your fist and you look down at your hand and the orientation your hand has to the rest of your arm, and I'm going to hold mine up like this, you can see that if my arm is straight up, my hand is actually angled like this. That's a neutral wrist position. That's where your hand kind of naturally sits. That's where your wrist naturally sits. What a barbell does is it deviates your wrist from this spot to this spot over here so that you can fit a straight bar through your hand. So this is a deviation this way, this is a deviation that way, and this is more neutral. N-Gage grips, if you set them up on the bar the right way for your wrist to relieve wrist tension, they're going to allow your wrist to be more neutral, which is that slight angle compared to your forearm. So again, 2 ways to set them up, and we're going to walk through this on 4 different lifts. And so I'll show you exactly what this looks like with the grips in a second. 2 different ways to set them up, either with your hands more neutral like that, or your wrist more neutral when you're grabbing the bar like that. So that's step 1 that comes with the instructions. Step 2 is to face the grip opening away from you when you're pressing weight away from your body. So you can see, like we talked about earlier, the grips have an opening. That's how you wrap them around the bar. The grips snap back into place. And what you want to do when you're pressing weight, just to be extra careful, is make sure that grip opening is facing away from you when you're pressing. That way the weight of the bar is sitting against a solid section of the grip down here rather than pushing against this open section of the grip. Just for safety purposes, just a precaution. That's step number 2. Okay, and step number 3 is to simply hold on to the grips very firmly and tightly. So use a firm, full grip when you're using N-Gage grip. There's a few reasons we do this. First of all, having a firm and full grip is going to keep the grips glued in place exactly where you want them on the bar. The second reason is when you grip very firmly, whether you're using N-Gage grips or not, you are going to encourage more full body tension. That full body tension helps increase muscle activation throughout your upper body and also helps stabilize your joints, including your rotator cuff. All right, I'm sure this isn't a very flattering view, but what the hell. So let's take what we've learned and apply it to the bench press. So I'll usually walk up behind the bar, not laying down like this. I'm just doing this for the video right now. But usually walk up behind the bar, slap the grips on. However, I think maybe they need to go on. I just slapped them on. I wasn't thinking about which side to put them on. But if I were to grab the grips like this, you could see that my hands are actually not more neutral. They're going to end up being less neutral, like over-pronated that way. And so if I were to bench press like this, my elbow is actually going to be encouraged to flare out, and it's going to really hurt my shoulders. It's not going to be good. It's not going to feel comfortable. So I have these on wrong. My hands are not more neutral. So I could, you think, I'll just turn your bar around. Boom. Now they're more neutral. It's going to be more ergonomic, but we have the grip opening now facing down. We don't want that. So what I do every time, I slap them on, I make sure the grip opening is facing toward the ceiling on bench press. And if I look at them and my hands aren't set up in a more neutral position, then I just swap them. So here you can see I have them set up. So my hands are going to be in a more neutral position like this. So the other way to set them up on bench press, like we talked about earlier, is to set them up so your wrists are in a more neutral position and less deviated. So if this is how we have them for a more neutral hand position, for a more neutral wrist position, all we need to do is take the grip opening that's currently facing toward the ceiling and roll it forward. And what that does, it puts the fat part of the grip down on the outside part of our hand. And so when we grab this, you can see, and of course I'd be under the bar. Here, I'll go ahead and get under the bar. When I grab it like this, you can see that my hand stays in an angled position compared to my forearm. So when I lift like this, my wrists feel very comfortable, and I have a lot of weight distribution that's going down the outside of my hand that seems to help me pin my shoulders back too. So I like that variation as well. Okay, underhand standing barbell rows are one of my favorite lifts to do with N-Gage grips. And so let's go through the steps here. I'm gonna attach them on so my hands or wrists are in a more neutral position. So you can set them up again so your hands are slightly more neutral, palms facing each other, thumbs going up towards your face, or you can set them up so that your wrists are more neutral. I like to set them up for this particular lift so my wrists are more neutral. You can see how I can grab the grips right here. My wrist is angled in a more neutral position, and it just feels way more comfortable to perform this particular lift. And you probably want to add weight to the bar, but I'm doing demonstrations today, so we're weightless. So tricep extensions or skull crushers are another one of my favorite lifts to use N-Gage grips on. Every time I used to try these with easy bars, I never had a good grip width to choose from on an easy bar. It either sent my hands out really wide or forced me to hold the bar really narrow. With N-Gage grips, the best thing about using them on skull crushers or overhead tricep extensions is that you can set them up exactly where you need them for your ideal grip width. So I'm going to put them about right here. That's where it's been pretty comfortable for me. Again, because I plan to lift weight over my body, I'm going to set the grip opening away from me so that when I pick this up and lift over my head, that grip opening is on the top, setting away from me. The force of the bar is resting against the solid section of the grip. And I'm going to set them up so my hands are more neutral. I'm using an overhand grip. My hands are more neutral. If I did place them on the bar correctly the first time, but if, for example, I would have had them over here, I'm going to hold this up. You can see my elbows are getting forced out because my hands are actually extra deviated. My hands are not in a more neutral position. They're actually in a over-supinated position, and so that's not right. It doesn't feel right from the get-go. So if you ever grab the bar with the grips on and it just doesn't feel right, something's not right at all. You have tension, extra tension in your wrist or elbows. Chances are you probably have them on the bar wrong. Just take a quick look, make sure you're paying attention to see if your hands are actually indeed more neutral. So with skull crushers, I'm just going to do this on this slightly elevated bench here, a bit of an incline. Again, this grip width is perfect for me. I really should think about adding weight to this, but I already worked out today. One last lift to talk about, and this is another one of my favorites. Barbell curls. Easy to think through here. Same as the easy curl bar, right? You're gonna grab the grips with a more neutral angle. Doesn't really matter which way the grip opening is facing. You're not lifting weight over your body, so don't worry about that. But I'm gonna set them up just like this. I think you guys can tell that here, instead of a fully supinated grip, I'm gonna have a slightly more neutral hand position. And that is the easiest and most straightforward way to use a barbell with N-Gage grips. So that's option number one, hands less supinated, more neutral. Option number two is to set them up so that your wrists are more neutral. And that looks like this right here. So you can see I can do a very narrow grip with the curls and set them up angled like this so that my wrists are more neutral. You can actually do this with an easy bar too. It's interesting because when you try to set them up like this with an easy bar, the way the weight is distributed at the ends and the way the bar is angled, typically your hand is going to be forced kind of back into this more neutral hand position versus a more neutral wrist position. But with N-Gage grips, some of you might notice that you don't have that force. The weight's evenly distributed across the bar because it's a very straight bar and this is just a barbell attachment. And so if I want to lift with a more neutral wrist position, if I hold them down there, you can kind of see my wrists are more neutral. So my hands are actually fully supinated right now. My wrists are just more neutral. And I lost focus on my camera. Okay, so as a lot of you know, your bicep is actually involved in the supination of your hand. And so if you have a fully supinated hand, oh my gosh, let's try to go this way. If you have a fully supinated hand, even though my wrists are more neutral, my hand is fully supinated, we're actually activating more of the bicep, or the bicep is more involved in the lift because the bicep is involved in hand supination. So if you really want to activate your bicep, and you could just test this out, you could see that if you feel your bicep when you supinate, you go from a neutral hand to a fully supinated hand. And then when you over supinate, your bicep gets even more tense. So what I found out I can do is I can set the grips up almost opposite from what they were intended, right? And I don't do this on any other lift besides bicep curls. But if you set them up opposite, if you have the mobility in your wrist and hand and elbow as well, you can actually over supinate your hands and grab the bar like that. And then at the very peak up here at the top, you have the absolutely most contraction you can get of that bicep muscle because your hands are over supinated. So over supinated bicep curls. If anybody's ever done that, leave a comment down below. If you haven't done it and you don't have N-Gage grips yet, buy a set and try it and let me know how it works out. So remember, there is no left or right N-Gage grip. It's X and O, and depending on the lift, how you have your hands oriented and whether you're pushing or pulling. Either one could go on either side. You just have to kind of remember which goes on which side. The instructions do come with this little cheat sheet, and I'm going to put that up on the screen right now in case you want to take a quick screenshot of it. Once you get the hang of how to put them on the bar, how to make sure your hands or wrists are more neutral, it really becomes second nature. You just got to give it a couple weeks. That's pretty much it. Hope this was a helpful video. And if you have any questions, just drop it in the comments below. And if you haven't gotten yourself a set of N-Gage grips yet, make sure to click the link in the description and try yours risk-free for 60 days.